Hey Rainier View, this is Joe. I'm one of the teaching pastors here at RVCC, and I'm glad to be online with you today. Welcome to week 3 of our series, everyONE. And I think I can speak for everyone when I say that there's a special kind of disappointment many of us know. And I'm talking about the one where you like something so much, you want to share it with someone, hoping they like it too, but then you realize this person has no interest in what you enjoy whatsoever. And let me give you an example. I've been married to Jill for 9 years, and she still does not care for Christopher Nolan movies. She still does not want to go out for Thai food, even tonight. And no matter how hard I have tried, she has zero interest in fantasy football. And that is a special kind of disappointing. It's wrong-headed, but at the end of the day, I can live with the fact that Jill doesn't care about Inception, Pad Thai, and whether Jordan Love is the real deal. By the way, I think he is. I just picked him up. But let me just say this. There are things that I do really care about and that you really care about as well. And it's difficult when people don't share your passion for it. And you begin to ask why. And for those of us who follow Jesus and have made him Lord over our lives, I think we can all agree that there's a real pain that comes from realizing that some people in our lives want nothing to do with Jesus. And it makes us wonder why. It makes us wonder if the gospel is such good news, why do some people want nothing to do with it? And I don't think I can answer that question fully, but I've seen people typically fall into two camps or extremes when attempting to answer this question. On one side of the aisle, you have the gospel is supposed to be offensive group. There is a DC Comics superhero named Peacemaker, played by John Cena, whose motto is, I cherish peace with all my heart. I don't care how many men, women, and children I need to kill to get it. And I think that sort of describes the mindset of that first group. They love the gospel so much, they don't care how many people they have to offend to share it. Because the idea here is that the truth hurts. People are going to be put off. And in fact, if no one has ever been angry at you, then you probably are not sharing the right message. So we got the gospel as offensive group. But on the other side, you have the Christians are the problem group. You've probably heard the quote, I like your Christ, I do not like your Christians. The idea here is that Jesus, he's great, but his followers are the issue. All Christians are hypocritical, judgmental, political opportunists, people who claim to be all about love, but who are just looking out for themselves. So the logic goes, if Jesus hasn't made his followers any better, then why should I like and subscribe? So you might be wondering, which is it? Is the problem those people out there or the people in here? And I think the answer is both, but not to the extremes I just described. The gospel, first of all, is supposed to be offensive. And that group is right that not everyone will receive the good news as good news. For example, look at what happened to Jesus after his first sermon in the Gospel of Luke. All the people in the synagogue were furious when they heard this. They got up, drove Jesus out of the town, and took him to the brow of the hill on which the town was built in order to throw him off the cliff. It's worth noting that this happened after Jesus preached in his hometown of Nazareth. Likely the people who showed up to his sermon included family, neighbors, colleagues, and others who saw Jesus grow up and saw him as a part of their community. If there was ever a home field advantage for sharing the gospel and having your first sermon, Nazareth would be the place for Jesus. And if there was ever the right speaker to do it, it would be Jesus over Jeff, Erica, Crystal, and maybe me. Yet what happens? Not some, but all the people at first service were furious, and they tried to throw Jesus off a cliff. So For those of you who have tried to share the gospel but have met little to no success, I hope this story is an encouragement to you. Not even Jesus, the Son of God, could get a single person to choose faith in his hometown. Which means that if you failed before, you are in really good company. The message that nearly drove Jesus off a cliff and eventually got him crucified is the same message you and I are tasked with sharing today. But that said, you are not Jesus. I am not Jesus. And we have to be real careful not to automatically assume that the problem is the person we are sharing our faith with and not ourselves. Because here's the thing, the gospel is offensive, but it's not a license to be offensive. For instance, the gospel says Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. He is the only way to know who God is and to be in relationship with him. In our pluralistic secular society, that is really offensive. And we should own that and stand firm in that and say we really believe this is the truth. But let me give you a real life example of the difference between preaching an offensive gospel versus being offensive. Saying Jesus is the only Son of God is gospel, and that is a good offensiveness. But making it your life mission to force every public school in your neighborhood to display the 10 Commandments in the classroom is offensive. The state of Texas just passed that law for the upcoming school year. And I want to be really clear here. Joe is not anti-10 Commandments. I would love nothing more than everyone to cherish the 10 Commandments and to follow them. But my point is, what is achieved by forcing every teacher to post them on a wall? I would say nothing, other than offending every family that isn't Christian and reminding them that in this state, Christians hold a significant amount of power. And here's why I'm overly critical about this. If our calling as Christians is to invite people into a loving relationship with Jesus, it's not going to happen through monuments on a wall that are really just political ploys. It happens through us, you and me, being living monuments of God's love. Peter, one of Jesus' disciples, gives us a better way of going about sharing the gospel. He says this, always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect. It's not just what you share, but how you share that matters. Always be ready to tell people about Jesus and understand that not everyone will like what he has to say, but do it in a way that is gentle and respectful and loving. Now, we talked a lot about the gospel's offensive side. Let's talk about the other side. It's also true that many people have no interest in the gospel because Christians have been anything but gentle, respectful, or loving. And honestly, this group is right. Christians don't often act like Jesus. I often don't act like Jesus. I already mentioned the Texas example, and I could easily spend the rest of the sermon listing all the ways Christians have been hypocritical, judgmental, and power hungry. But here's what I'd like to say to our critics. We don't hide from that fact. We have this book, you may have heard of it, called the Bible. And in it, you'll find over 2,000 years of God's people getting it wrong again and again and again and again. Our message, if we're preaching it faithfully, isn't that we've got it all together or that we're the solution to the world's problems. Our message is that Jesus loves us, he works through us in spite of us, and he alone is the hope of the world. And sometimes the best of us will get it wrong and fall short of being like Jesus. And sometimes, because people be peopling, they will claim to be Christians the same way they also claim to sleep 8 hours a day, floss, and never miss leg day. There will always be people acting in bad faith. But that doesn't mean that there aren't people who want to follow Jesus imperfectly and be a blessing to others. And that's what we all want, right? That's what you want. That's what I want. For those of us who follow Jesus, we want to be a blessing. We want to tell others about who Jesus is and why he matters to their lives. So what do we do? What's the best way to share good news that could be offensive, but in a gentle, respectful, and loving way? Well, Jesus models the best way to do this many times throughout the gospel. And it's not arguing, protesting, preaching, or policy making. It's eating. One famous example comes from Luke chapter 19, which I'm going to go ahead and just read the entire story so you get a picture of this. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed the sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. When Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. All the people saw this and began to mutter, "He has gone to be the guest of a sinner." But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, "Look, Lord, here and now I give half my possessions to the poor. And if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount." Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost." A couple of things I want to note here. First, it would have been really tempting for Jesus to approach Zacchaeus in any other way. He could have argued with Zacchaeus about his life choices. He could have protested the way Z wronged the Jewish people. He could have preached at Z and tell him to get it together because God was not pleased with him and he was going to hell. Or he could have met with some political groups to figure out a way to make tax collectors less predatory in their practices. But the option he chose was to have dinner with Zacchaeus and to build a relationship with him. And what were the results? Zacchaeus decides to follow Jesus, to pay back 4 times anyone who he has cheated, and Zacchaeus is completely changed. Here's what I think Jesus teaches us. You can win an argument, but that doesn't win a person. You can protest a problem, but that doesn't change a heart. You can preach the truth, but that alone won't transform a life. You can even pass good policies, but that will never make someone new. If you want the best chance at reaching someone, you need to take the time to build a relationship with them. And that's challenging in the world we live in. Ours is an instant culture. If I don't feel like walking through Costco, Costco can show up to me. If I don't want to rent a movie, I can stream anything I want with one click. If I don't want to meet people in public, I can swipe through apps to find the right friend. But what Jesus calls us to is not instant. It takes intentionality and time, because sharing the gospel can't be shipped, it can't be apped, and can't take place in our comfort zones. Instead, spiritual interest grows best one meal at a time. So here's the action step I want to encourage you to take for the week. Eat. We began with B, to begin with prayer for our aid. And we've asked God to identify the one we need to stop, turn, and see. Then we moved to L, listen. We started a conversation to better get to know our one and to dwell with them. And this week, I want you to move on to eat. Eat together with your one. Do what Jesus did and find the time to sit down with your one and share a meal. It can be breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It can be a coffee. Maybe you have time to invite them over. Maybe you go out. But whatever you do, remember, this is about relationship first. Don't show up to dinner with a Romans Road Guide to Salvation speech, but just hang out. Be normal. Continue to listen. Learn what matters to them and earn their trust. But here's the thing to remember. friendship takes more than just one meal. And it's never a guarantee that people will be interested in Jesus, right? But friendship is also the only way anyone will be interested in Jesus. So what's the action step, church? The action step is invite your one to eat with you this week.